Addie was in chemotherapy for 2 years. She went into remission rather quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I want to hear Addie's. I mean, so she's 2.5, right? When you figure this out?
The doctor comes up, knocks on the door, and says, "Can I speak with you?" And I'll never forget. She goes, "Well, it is leukemia." So again, in the movie version is, "It's leukemia." Boom, boom. But we'll be right back.
Yeah.
And you go, So I mean, there's so much to say in there, but I will say that there comes a time in the midst of it, and she was in the ICU for little kids for a while because it got really bad with infections and her heart racing, and so there were some very touch and go moments. And a couple things, there's so many things I've learned. First thing you learn is what falls away. Everything you thought was so important. Another thing is I go, oh, that's why we kneel when we pray.
Welcome to the Good Grief, Good God Show, hosted by Grammy nominee and Emmy Award-winning hit songwriter Brad Warren of the Warren Brothers. Join Brad monthly on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Tuesdays in audio or on YouTube for raw, honest conversation about surviving things that suck. For episode 7, Brad welcomes actor and singer-songwriter Charles Esten. As an actor, Charles is best known for his roles in TV dramas, including Nashville as Deacon Claybourne and Ward Davis on Netflix's Outer Banks. He also showcased his improv skills over 9 seasons on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Most recently, Charles is making waves in music with his debut studio album, Love Ain't Pretty. In addition to performing, Charles serves as a national honorary spokesman for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's annual Light the Night Walk and is a board member and a volunteer for Musicians on Call. I'm producer Matt Pivito. To learn more about today's guest, Brad, and the show, check the description where you'll find clickable links to access this episode's audio and video links, to connect to the show on social media, and to visit goodgriefgoodgodshow.com. Lastly, we value your feedback, so please hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment or review. On the behalf of Brad's wife and executive producer, Michelle Warren, and segment producer and guest booker, Lisa Bolt, thank you for tuning in. The Good Grief, Good God Show is brought to you in loving memory of Sage Michael Warren.
So, you obviously you've heard of G. Gordon Liddy. So way back in the day, when I did G. Gordon Liddy's radio show, and
that's fascinating.
It's fascinating, but he wouldn't see us before we came on.
That makes sense. Here's a little bit of that. I would recommend that. We probably
because you missed,
yeah. But the reason I did that is there might be areas I wanted to touch on, areas like you might not think of Musicians on Call or my dad or my brother. If you don't know these things, but I can always out them.
You're such a pro. I've been in here with songwriters and they start talking about people that no one knows but us. I'm like, you kind of have to preface this with,
you got to
get what we're talking about. But you're such a pro. You probably do that in your general conversations.
What's interesting thinking about even coming here, just my fears are. I think my biggest fear is being glib, because it's such a resonant and deep and true topic that I can say things I feel but have thought for so long, but they'll come out my mouth as platitudes or as, you think it's that
glib.
easy?
You couldn't be glib if you tried to be glib.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm just really good at it.
I hate actors, by the way.
Yeah.
You SOBs can do anything.
Authenticity is fantastic once you can fake it.
So if there's anything that you want to get cut out at all?
Yeah. You have full, we shouldn't have said that. Yeah, there'd never be. We had Sheryl Crow was in last week, and she's the sweetest person ever. And she texted me later. She goes, "Okay, I shouldn't have said, hey, where my kids go to school." Yeah. I said, hey, we'll take anything out.
That racist rant, Sheryl, absolutely.
I knew you were a big racist, by the way. I could have told.
No, of course you did. You know what's funny? On the way over here, oh, did we start already? Is this one of those?
I don't know. Did we start already?
Yes.
Honestly, we're probably starting from the middle. There's so much to talk about that's not right in it yet. But our friend Christopher, I met you from Eric Close.
Yes, it was when I first came here to do Nashville. Eric Close, who of course played eventually the mayor, but played Raina's husband. And it's funny because I've known Eric Close. We were in the same acting class back in I'm going to say 91, 92. So I've known Eric.
Just like the music business. Tiny.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we would bump into each other And I have to touch on Eric for a second. We're going to tell that story, but real quickly, Eric, who's been on your show, 2 episodes, fantastic episodes, has been a real brother to me for a long, and I know he has to you as well, for a long, long time. And it used to be that thing where we would bump into each other and we'd say, oh, we got to work together someday. One time we both had a show and we were on Fox. This is like in 95. And we were talking about one thing or the other. And I've always admired and been inspired by how bold he is in his faith. We were talking at an event in like one of those critics. They bring the critics in before the season starts and you meet with them all. And anyway, we're at a bar and we're talking about this, that, and he goes, well, I'm a Christian, so I think that, and I was like, me too. and I remember thinking in that moment, I wish I wasn't the Me Too guy. I wish I was the guy that had said it first. And so that's inspired me and moved me a lot over the years.
I will say this. I was raised so in it. Like my family was the most Christian on the block. We did 4 days a week of church, not 3, because Saturday nights we had family night. So
if you were my sons, I'd take you 5 days a week.
When I don't offer that as my first thing, it's because the baggage that came with that, my relationship with Jesus is so strong and so different than it ever was before. And I'm not at all ashamed of what my relationship is. But it's kind of like leading with politics a little bit for some people. Like he's not. I know. I don't think
it was like the 100th thing 1,000th thing we'd said to each other. I'm just meant he was first to say it before me.
Yeah.
Like he was the one that made it over.
By the way, he waited till it became a practical event in life. Well, I'm not going to do that because I'm a Christian. Like, oh, that's where you're supposed to bring it up. Not I'm going to try to convince you of something you don't believe.
Oh no, yeah. He was just saying from my perspective, from my belief system, blah blah blah. And in any event, so he and I became.
It's a tough thing
friends.
In Hollywood, right? I mean.
Oh yeah, exactly. But he just made it seem so natural and genuine. We weren't talking about anything that was remotely like on the edge was any kind of a discussion that was fire or anything like that. He just said that's the truth. So all these years, whenever I see him, I go, man, what a good guy. And I mean it. He's a good guy.
He's
right?
the best. Yeah.
I say this. I used to think I was a good guy. And then I met Eric.
I was saying about Al Andrews. I think I'm a good guy. Then I spent an hour with Al Andrews. I'm like, I'm not.
Is that how it is, right? I'm the same with Eric. Because like I'm a friendly dude, right?
You're the friendliest.
But I'm on no. He's so friendly. So we'd be on our Southwest flight going back to. I'll skip back to. We finally find ourselves. We never got to work each other for like 2 decades, and then we end up and we're both in Nashville. Working on this show together, and we just grinned this big grin with each other. We'd go out somewhere, and like I remember, he introduced me to you guys. He goes, "This is Chip. He plays my wife's boyfriend."
Well, he brought you over here, and it's just one of my favorite stories. So he brought you over here, and my cousin Joel, who's now the guitar player for Cole Swindell, and he's a writer in town, was living with us. So he just moved to town, very young, and he was living with us. And I had never watched the show The Office, and he had introduced us to The Office. So me and my 3 boys are full out Office junkies at the moment. Like the season you were on was right before, then 6 months before you came. So they're watching reruns and over. And my youngest son was probably not. He's 19 now. So when did Nashville start? How many years ago? 12 years ago? 10 years ago?
Nashville started in 12.
And 12. So 11 years ago. So he's 9 years old. And he comes downstairs, and me and you and Eric are sitting at the table, and he just walked in and went, "No way, Josh!"
Josh from Stanford.
Yeah, Josh from Stanford. Yeah,
that's the full name, by the way.
Yeah, Josh from Stanford. And I was like, this kid grew up around Tim McGraw, and he's not really that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he'd never see. He just was like, "This is something I'm interested in, not my dad's work. This is awesome."
It's funny that because when I got here, the concept of gurming, which people outside of Nashville aren't really I'd never heard of it. Gurming means to fanboy somebody, to go up to somebody and want the autograph, want the picture, and it is a Nashville thing that you don't gurm. Everybody told me, it said you don't worry. There's a no gurming policy in Nashville, and we come to find out on Nashville that that's not for TV people. That's for the local artists.
Music pays the bills here. Yeah. Oh, really?
It's the strangest thing. I mean, not that it doesn't happen to everybody. I think that's probably changed even with social media over the years. That's probably gone away. That used to be a thing.
You became this thing in the middle of this. Now we'll get into this too, but like in the middle of this, you kind of became a country star while you were playing a country star. I mean,
it's crazy. Well, you got to see. I started off in music, so and I just it was my first love. It was like, your high school love. And then I'd gone on to do this acting. I'd been in a college band and we played for like 5 years and we're doing really, really well. But all those guys went on to be doctors and lawyers and stuff. So they all quit. If I had known like one guy, if you had pulled through town and said, I'm in Nashville and I write songs, I think I would have gone. But I didn't have that connection. I knew a couple people that had gone to LA and made the acting work. So I went, maybe I'll do that. But right in beside it was, and when I do, I'll meet a drummer, I'll meet a bass player, I'll meet another guitarist. I mean, when I went out there, I was doing open mics. I played at the Palomino.
Oh, wow.
Country music on the guitar at the Palomino. But I never met that drummer, never met that band. And it wasn't until years later that I get this script that says Nashville. I've been writing songs, by the way, country songs with Nashville songwriters. With my friend Jane Bach had come out a number of times. She wrote some hits for Reba and for Martina and for a bunch of people. And she and I would write these songs, and we'd do what I didn't know what a writer's round. We would do them at a Korean barbecue place on Coanga. And so I'd been wanting to come to Nashville for the longest time. I had seen, even before that, I saw Jeffrey Steele out there do a one-man's writer's round.
Nobody's better than Jeffrey.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this was one of those real God things. I was driving somewhere. I had somewhere to be, and I called Patty, my wife, and I said, baby, I just heard on, what's the name of what was the country station in LA? I don't even think it's there anymore.
KZLA.
It was KZLA, that's right. And they said they were talking about Jeffrey Steele, and they're playing all his hits in the background that he's going to be at some place on Santa Monica. I go, I don't even know why I feel
so you saw this in LA. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is 7-8 years more before Nashville. And I go, I feel like I got to go to this thing because it had been occurring to me that if I ever got an Emmy or something, I'd be like, awesome. But if I ever got a cut on somebody's album, I would have been pulled over to the side of the road and wept, kind of.
Yeah,
so I go, but you're not living your life like that on any level. And so I was writing songs, but just casually on my own sometimes. So I said, I got to go to this thing. And I went to that. And you know Jeffrey's songs.
Experience, man. Yeah.
But Jeffrey's singing Jeffrey's songs. And I was so blown away. And I remember going up, shook his hand and said, I just thank you. This has been an incredible night. After that, I started focusing down and really trying to write. And 3 different times I was meant to come here to be at the Bluebird and I had to cancel because I was getting work. And I said to Patty, when am I going to get to go to Nashville? It'll never happen. And then I get the script. And I'm telling you, after that, it just moves so fast. I'm here, I'm shooting. 3 months later, I'm sitting in a room with Jeffrey Steele writing a song.
It's amazing. And if you hadn't done the acting, maybe that doesn't ever happen.
No. So it's the road not taken. And I can't second guess, but I still do.
Yeah, well, here's another thing. I mean, you get to both. I mean, you get to do both.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, this is funny because nobody on earth that I ever met wanted to play guitar for a living and live on a tour bus more than I did growing up. I was obsessed, super strict, family, whatever.
From watching who? What was the image of it that you latched onto? Where did you see it?
I wasn't even allowed to listen to rock music.
So where did you see it to know it?
My friend had a Van Halen album. Women and Children First, and Eddie Van Halen had a guitar, like a cigarette in the strings of the guitar and ripped jeans.
I know the picture.
And looked exactly like I felt inside. And I was like, I'm going to do that, whatever that is. Like I'm literally, and I put a cigarette in my strings many years before smoking just wasn't okay. But maybe because they didn't allow it, it made it so much more enticing. But I mean, nobody wanted it more than I love that. And now you can't get me on a tour bus. Big Star calls and says, you want to go on the road and ride? And we're like, I don't want to ride the bus. Okay. If I don't, it's
the same way for me about fame in general, but keep going.
So if you may not be enjoying what you're enjoying as much as you would have.
Oh,
if you had done this the whole time, you want to ruin a hobby, do it for a living. A little bit, right?
Brad, I got to tell you that people talk to me about my enthusiasm for it all, like in the recording studio, in the writing process. And it's exactly that. It's like, you were born here. This is what you grew up on. This is what I've dreamt of and waited for my whole life. So, it's, that's why, I recorded, this, I did 54 songs in 54 weeks.
Yeah.
It was called Every Single Friday. And I just did it because Well, first of all, I get paralysis of analysis. I overthink things, and I try to make the perfect enemy of the good, make the perfect EP, make the perfect. I said, you know what? Forget that. I'm just going to start putting out music. So I went on video and I said, I'm going to put out a single a week until it's stupid. And then I blew through that ending. I just kept doing it because it was the purest love of I love this. I want to get my 10,000 hours. I don't know how long this Nashville show will last. I don't want to leave here. And this is a recurring theme I have in my life. We have a song that's on Nashville called A Life That's Good. It says, I want to look back and say, I did all that I could. That sticks with me because I felt when I didn't. So you can say one thing about me is I'm doing all that I can.
Yeah.
And so I never quite thought of it your way though. I could have got burned out beforehand.
Oh, and not even burned out. Like I still do. I still love to play and do the shows, and I still love to write. But the things that surround that become work. They just do. And you've just done it a long time. And so not burned out like I'm going to stop, but burned out like it's not super special anymore.
Yeah.
And because it is your job to a certain extent now, but it isn't the job and you're not as burned on it. I would love to like have a sideline. Maybe I'm doing that right now, by the way. But
I think you are.
Something else.
I think you are. But it's exactly that. It's that with the acting, there's so many great overlaps. And of course, Nashville is the definition of that. On Nashville, you would do a scene, and right when you ran out of words, there's music, there's a song. And you know that. There's the quintessence of what you're trying to say. And also you're playing this strong, silent type that you won't get much out of me, but give me a guitar and I'll tell you everything, kind of a thing.
So when they pitched you this role, you were in automatically?
Pitched me this role.
Who else was up for this?
I had to audition. I had to fight tooth and nail for that.
Who else was up for this? I mean, you have to sing. Or did you have to sing? Was it
I had to sing.
They weren't going to voice over something.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, I remember. I remember it so very well. But the thing was, for 8 years, I'd been a singer-songwriter in a small version in a Korean barbecue place and songwriting. So I was living that. I was at another thing too that we'll get on. I mean, even regarding the topic of this is my daughter had been very, very sick, and I'll just table that for the moment. And we'll get back to it. But I was always that guy that just really, really wanted it. I really, really want it. And that works for some roles, but it doesn't work for Deacon. The last thing Deacon is like me. And that's the first thing Chip is. So
it's interesting because actually it's true. I mean,
at a certain point though, going through that with my daughter, Addie, and we'll touch on that, made me more like, it's not as important as I thought. None of it is. Nothing is.
Yeah.
So I'm in that place, and I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been doing it. And there's the same handful of guys that have been beating me out for the leads for a long time. I'm getting great roles on The Office, and I did a thing called Big Love on HBO.
Yeah, that was a great series. Oh, yeah.
And so Whose Line? All these things I've been working, but I've never got the bang-on lead. And I suddenly thought, maybe some of these bang-on leads that have been beating me can't sing or play guitar quite as much. So there's a million stories behind that. I'll just tell one. I had an audition with Callie Curry, the great creator of the show. Yeah. And some other folks in there, as well as, this is crazy, the casting director was my friend, Jeannie Backrack, my friend David Burke, one of my oldest, dearest friends. It's his wife. Now, this is not a who you know thing. She had no power to get me this job. And she would have seen me even if she didn't know me. I had that much, cred in LA. Right. But just that, whenever things work out for me, you start feeling a little bit of these synchronicities that all just keep landing.
It always takes more than one thing.
Exactly.
So I worked up cut. It all takes more than one.
I worked up a song or two, and one of the craziest things, I had recently found this little stand that went with my, kind of will fold up and go in your guitar bag or your guitar case. Mm-hmm. I just saw it, and on a whim, I bought it. So when I got there, I opened my guitar, and they said, you want me to sing first or to play first? And they said, why don't you act first? And so I did the scenes first. So I took my stand and I put my guitar in it. And then I sat there and I did the scenes. Years later, she said to me, she goes, do you know you were the only person to audition that had a guitar stand? And I was like, really? She goes, everybody else just was leaning their guitar against the wall or a chair.
Sliding.
And she's T-Bone Burnett's wife. So those are not, guitars are sacred. They're not just You know,
by the way, I need to get one of those stands. It fits in your guitar bag.
Oh, that's crazy. I'll show you.
I need that because we fly a lot.
They'll be on sale at the website.
The Chip Esten guitar stand for beginners.
So, but in any event, that's not what got me. But it's a small thing. She looked at it and said, "That's
he cares about his guitar.
Cares about their guitar, like Deacon Claybourne."
And I don't know if you had the same guitars, but you play in great Gibson guitar.
Yeah, I did not have the same guitars. I came to the Deacon got some good guitars
because you put some wear on that thing, or somebody did. I'm
exactly. So there's all those things that lead into it and lead me to come in here, which just opened the whole wide world up. I figured, I might get a song written, but I didn't know that I'd be able to do all the things I'm getting to do right now.
That's
and
amazing.
I know what I was going to say. To get to do both is crazy because acting, it's very collaborative in the extreme. Somebody has written what I'm going to say. Somebody dressed me. Somebody's basically giving me advice on how to say it. Somebody's shooting me. And then we go record it in this quiet soundstage. And maybe 8 months later, somebody else watches it in a home 1,000 miles away from me. I'm not there. It's collaborative and it's distant in that sense. Yeah. With music, you've done it. You sit on a stool in a room full of people there and you play a song that wrecks people that you wrote and that now you're getting that interaction. So to have those two worlds.
Immediate gratification for live music. That's
for me, it's the connection. And I say this, I started off as a little excuse for why I suck at guitar so much and so many other things. I don't have the voice. Oh, that's very, very kind. But you think you're a guitarist, then you come to Nashville and you go, oh, I'm not a guitarist.
For a singer. You know what I mean?
For a singer.
For a singer.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I always say, and this is legit, and now I always say it's too, for me, it is never about perfection. I have no shot at it.
No,
so it's not
either.
even more.
Yeah.
For me, it's always about connection. And that connection I get every time because I fight tooth and nail for it every way I can. Like, wait, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm way above them. I need to just calm down a little bit and just sit in this and let this thing be ugly for a second.
Yeah.
And let it get more real. And then you start to feel this connection. And of course, as you know, as a songwriter, the real connection is, do your songs connect? Did you write something that means something to somebody? So anyway,
and there's nothing quite like, it's funny, you can't choose the moments but when you're playing the song that did maybe already connect to someone, and that's a great thing. And in certain moments, especially because I play with my brother all the time, so we're always in, and every now and then we fall into this gully of like, this isn't perfection, but man, it feels perfect. It's as close to this pocket. I said to someone else, it's like a little a little Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood moment where it's like we're swimming between what's supposed to be going on, and it's hard to explain this to someone because it's not. It just happens in these little moments.
And that's what you're
beautiful.
That's what you're chasing. But I say chasing, but you can't chase it.
No,
it's not like hunting. I haven't been hunting, but it's not that.
That's what you're desiring, but not chasing.
And that thing you chase, you grasp, you're not going to get. And by the way, I think of that with Nashville. With Nashville, we frequently we had all these wild moments that you need to be on network TV and they're all there and they're great television, et cetera. But there were moments when all of a sudden you'd go, oh, that was like wildly real. That was incredibly resonant, that song or that scene. And they weren't all, but they can't all be. Life can't be like that. That would be weird if you and I, every moment we spent together was just like humming with resonance.
You said it perfectly. It's not the wild things that happen on that show. It's the frequency with which they happen, because there's crazier things happen in real life than fiction.
Real life.
At any moment. But it's the frequency that it happened, and you had to keep going. So when you came here, you attended my AA meeting with me for a while to learn how to play it drunk.
Well, that
turned out really well. You're welcome.
Thank you. You're joking. I have an enormous amount of thanks. I was telling you that I was playing an addict and a recovering addict, and my motto when I came here was steal from the truth. That's my motto as an actor: steal from the truth as much as you can. And I remember, I don't think I just asked. I think you sort of said. Because I didn't. Yeah. No, I didn't know. Said it. I remember you went and you asked everybody in the room, not just whoever the leader was, but you asked everybody in the room, would that be all right? And they all said yes. And it was extremely informative. So often the most informative things about a scene aren't the most emotional moments, but the most casual moments. I remember right before our daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, we were at Children's Hospital, my wife and I. She was getting some other thing done that had nothing to do with that. But eventually, this procedure she didn't bounce back from it. And that's how we found out she had the leukemia. But anyway, we're there.
Did that save her life?
What's that?
Did that save her life?
In retrospect, yeah, I believe it did. Along with my wife saying, let's get her to a doctor. But in that moment, we were getting ready for that. And we were just stopping by for an appointment. And I remember being in a room full of children at this children's hospital. Many of whom were bald, their faces all swollen and puffy because they were right in the midst of chemotherapy or radiation. And what really struck me as an actor, and I think as a songwriter, you're always watching what reality is. There's a part of you that's in it, but there's a part of you that's hovering above going, just clocking it. And I remember the thing I clocked was, if I was acting this situation, if we were doing a scene about this, everybody would look so noble and like just going through it. And it wasn't that. What it is it was Tuesday morning, Brad, and everybody was just there and they're playing with Legos and laughing and that little kid's being bad and that little kid's being good and that one's sleeping. It didn't look any different because this was their new reality. And so I needed to take that on board. And that was the same thing with that meeting. It was, whatever you're doing, keep it real too, because we're all still human beings in this moment and we're all.
Yeah, there's no music playing along with the actual AA meeting. You know, it's
that shocked me. I thought there was I was like, where's the score? There's no score?
You didn't know what to say because there was no dramatic music with it, right? How am I supposed to do this?
But by the way, within it, there are some of the funniest lines I've ever heard. The casual repartee of people that have been through it is and that's what the essence of this is. This is discussions about people who have been through it. And I've often said, I was thinking about it that, you tell me, do you still love songwriters?
I love songwriters. I love alcoholics and songwriters, man. And if you are an alcoholic songwriter, we're going to be best friends. Alcoholics have been through hell.
I'm working on the first one. I'm working on the.
You play a great one, so we're 3/4 of the way there.
Thank you.
I mean,
no, but I've often thought, like, songwriters. What are the things about a songwriter? They got to be emotionally intelligent. You have to be.
Have you ever met a good songwriter that's not funny?
No, that's the thing. You got to be funny. You have to be a storyteller. Have you ever met a great songwriter that can't tell a story?
No, because they by nature wouldn't be, by definition wouldn't be
exactly. So you want to be around those people. And then when you tie it to people that have been through actual pain, whether it's addiction or whether it's the loss of someone, the other stuff falls away and you get into the realm of the real. But the realm of the real was somebody that has all the tools to talk about it and to connect about it. That's why I think this is really beautiful and really important. I wanted to interview you and ask you, I can't imagine how the impact this has had on other people and on you and on people coming up to you and saying, I'm sure it happens on comments and everything about, you don't know where I was and what this got me through.
It's amazing open dialogue, what it does, just like long form open dialogue, because things come out and our friend Matt here, had the idea to do this. And I, of course, did not want to do this because it doesn't sound like any fun at all. The first time you and I discussed it, you're like, oh, I'm going to do this at some point. But it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Let me get in the right mood. This is not the podcast. I want to be Joe Rogan.
Because I knew it wouldn't be fun, but then I watched them and they're extremely fun.
It is fun.
Which is, by the way, which is the classic thing, like when you're acting a funeral, there's more hilarious jokes at funerals than most birthday parties, honestly. Like, because you're that offset thing where everybody's just feeling it, and the one guy says the thing about and you just like, you SOB. Yeah. So I mean, especially with somebody that knows
the morning of Sage's funeral.
I knew this
our son's funeral.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, obviously this is my 21-year-old son. It's the worst thing ever, and Michelle and I we had cried all the tears we were capable of. There was, nothing left until later that day, whatever. And the company, the funeral, the Williamson Memorial had sent a limo, and they sent a text. We ran out of the regular limos we had to rent from this other place. And this horrible lowered limo with spinner rims and like bad tint that was peeling off pulled up, and it was so Sage, it was so our son, that we cried in laughter.
He would have loved it.
He would have sent it. He sent it. There's no doubt in our minds that he sent it. And it was that moment, that was the joke that no one had to tell. And we started laughing, hysterically. We finally laughed, like tears of laughter, tears of joy.
That is
over that thing. It's just, that's a little thing.
That is a God thing. That is our humanity. That is so human.
It's
beautifully human.
It's that gift he gives you, like when you're about to pass out from the pain. You can't take anymore, and then he just lets you pass out. Or when I broke my ankle one time and just didn't get it looked at for a day because it swelled so much that it took care.
It's funny you say that. I thought of that. I thought that our it's a blessing that God gives us that our we don't have the nervous system. Our apparatus can't immediately fully comprehend the deepest pain on any level. Clearly, you were wrecked beyond belief when you heard the news, but there was still a cushion around you that didn't plumb the depths of how long and how deeply it would hurt. And by the way, the same thing is true with good things. I can remember getting Nashville and I was like, hey, and I was still like, you're still not getting it. You still don't know how good this is. So I don't want to get as,
like learning to live on a 5 is definitely something that's
that's the thing. That's the thing.
Skill.
Trusting in expanding that number. And you know that you've been to numbers that I can't know in terms of the scale, but those numbers somehow make the other side's numbers higher than mine.
Yeah.
After Addie was in chemotherapy for 2 years. She went into remission rather quickly.
Let's talk about that, because I want to hear Addie's. I mean, so she's 2.5, right? When you figure this out. I mean,
and she's not recovering from this procedure. She's very wan and pale. Her lips are pale. She has little things we later learned were called petechia, a little almost like freckles on her skin. And we kept going back to the people who did the procedure, and they said it just takes a while to come back. But mothers know. Patty's like, no. And so finally she goes, we got to go to our pediatrician, and we did. And she did a blood test and said, you got to get over the hill to Cedars-Sinai. And I remember we were there for a weekend, and the doctor comes up, knocks on the door, and says, "Can I speak with you?" And so I go out. Patty's in the bed with Addie, who's 2.5, and her brother is 2 years older than that, and her sister is 2 years older than that, and they're all coloring and playing Legos. And I'll never forget. She goes, "Well, it is leukemia," and here they had given us a range of things it might be. In my mind, they kind of really knew. I just think it's really wise to give you, it might be this thing, before you give them, it is this thing. So that's my guess. I don't know.
They give you 25% chance of it being that before they give you the 100%
so then
chance.
you sort of, she goes, what, and this was amazing. She goes, well, it is leukemia, and here's what we're going to do. So again, in the movie version is, it's leukemia. Boom, boom, but we'll be right back.
Yeah.
And you go, but they didn't do that. They said, here's what we're going to do. And so immediately I felt like, I'm a solution-oriented guy. Yeah. That's how guys are. It's like your wife comes with a problem. You go, well, here's what we're going to do. So I know we're utterly helpless, but in this situation, here's what we're going to do is huge. So, I mean, there's so much to say in there. But I will say, that there comes a time in the midst of it, and she was in the ICU for little kids for a while, because it got really bad with infections and her heart racing, and so there were some very touch and go moments. And a couple things. There's so many things I learned. First thing you learn is what falls away. Everything you thought was so important. There's a title, right?
I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
that's it.
Please, can we write that?
Yes, 100%.
I was shocked by it. These things I thought meant so much to me, utterly meant nothing instantly. Another thing is I go, oh, that's why we kneel when we pray. I didn't get it till then. I thought that it was just an arbitrary position for prayer. I didn't realize that when you're teaching your kids to kneel by the bed and say, now I laid me down to sleep, or when you're in church and you bring down the things and you kneel and say that, what we were doing is we were imitating the posture of the truest prayer that you can't avoid when you need it. I fell to my knees and fell on my face. And while I was down there praying for my daughter's life, the other voice, the hoverer, went, oh, that's why we pretend to do it when we're not really feeling it.
I never heard that before. And
that's just me thinking that. Amazing. I don't know if that's the case, but it seems like it, right? Abject need and abject, I have no power of my own.
When your knees buckle, that's what you do.
You go down and you hang on to something and you put your head down and you put your face up and you put your head down. It's just what you do. My body just did it. I wasn't doing it. And so I go, oh, that's what we're imitating. So that's another one. And then maybe the hardest, and it's hard to say in in front of someone that has lost their child. But in that moment, I don't know why, but into my mind came into one of the moments where I was praying. Hey, Chip, if you lose Addie, if these prayers don't come true, do you still believe in God? Do you still believe in me? And my instant answer, oddly, I mean, there's, I guess, years of thought behind it, but in that moment, it was like, yeah, I do. I do. I mean, there's so much of that is the where else shall I turn? Or that my Christianity never told me that was not a possibility is the other thing.
Matter of fact, if I had said it probably was going to happen.
Exactly.
And I will walk with you through it.
Right?
But it's going to happen.
But if you're raised on the faith that says, hey, stick with me and nothing bad happens to you, then you might not be there. So, but once I did that, once you go there,
how far in the process before you had that conversation with yourself? Will I still believe
that was very, I think that was pretty early on, because it was like, you want to talk about, that song, A Life That's Good. I told you about. I was saying to you, I want to look back and say I did all the good. Well, the song is called A Life That's Good. And the whole point of the song is you think you know what a life that's good is. Let me tell you, you only need a handful of things to have a life that's good. We had a life that's good. We were so blessed. We're just one of those families where everybody goes, oh, look at you guys. You guys know different. Not that you haven't been through your pains and all, but, but got it good, bro.
Certainly was,
Right? So.
The things that people think they envy. The truth is, if you took a group of people that you envied and you sat down at a table and all threw your problems into the middle of the table, you take your own problems back.
And
so, I think that I've mentioned this to Eric when we were talking, that Jim Carrey said, I wish everyone could be rich and famous.
Yes, I saw that
for a while.
Thing. Yeah.
So that they could realize it's not the answer to anything. I have learned through this. First of all, there's way more pain out there than I thought. And everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a story, and there's pain. If you haven't had it yet, it's coming. And I hate to say it. That's not negative. No. That's because there is a solution, an answer. But what you went through, by the way, is different than what I went through. But it's not less, because you had to live for a period of time with this small child that could easily go as easily as she could stay. It was very much probably 50-50 is probably better numbers than you thought at many times.
When we had better numbers, we were given 85-15 from the day that she said that. 85 survival, 15. Now, when I was a kid, leukemia was a death sentence, and I remembered that. And so, having said that, that's just a big ass 15.
Yeah.
When it's your 2.5-year-old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There were some blessings that she was so young in that she was oblivious to it all. She didn't have any understanding of mortality. She didn't know she was going to lose her hair. She didn't know that she had a spinal tap tomorrow and I had to curl her up in a ball while they injected her. So when she was good, she was good. I feel for those teens that are old enough to get all of it and young enough that maybe they haven't developed, but that's why they're all special people to a T. Yeah. All of the people that go through it, you look at them and they're just, because they've learned, I mean, what's the definition of a teenager? You think the smallest things are so epic. So these are people that have been cured not only of cancer, but of that illusion.
They're the oxymoron of a well-adjusted teenager.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Because they have seen it. And I think what you said, the things that fall away, another story I tell about, we had a car that Michelle's cousin came in and he's like, oh, that's a cool car. The week after Sage died. And I was like, yeah, take it. Just use it while you're here. And he's like, oh, no, I couldn't fix it. I'm like, dude, run that car to a tree at 80 miles an hour. I don't care. And I didn't care. And then 6 months later, my son's driving the car to prom with his girlfriend. And I'm like, hey, don't wreck the car. You know, it's amazing how we thicken the veil back up.
Oh, yeah.
Because now the things that fell away.
Yeah, they come back.
They
accrete again back on you.
But I remember, and I know you do too, because I'll say this. I don't know how much of this is innate and just your nature or how much of this is the experience you went through with Addie, but you live in the moment. Or if you don't, you're the best actor I've ever met. You appear to be in the moment. You focus on the person you're talking to. You make every situation feel special, that you're all into it. And I don't know if that's all natural, but some of that has to be from what you went through with your daughter. Like, I'm going to participate in every minute.
It's gone to another level. I've always been in the moment. That's the nature of improv. And so I was on TV doing Whose Line Is It Anyway? If you're not there, you have no shot at it. I mean, you sort of got to rip off the rearview mirror. I guess, I don't know. It's funny.
Yeah, that's true. You wouldn't do improv if you weren't in the moment. That would be.
Yeah, but you're talking about actually being with people, because you can do improv and your mind can be off trying to create and everything. But just to be with somebody, it's all been a part of that. That you said a phrase, you didn't realize how much pain there is in the world. Or as I told you, I learned that with Addie, but that was more just my own personal thing. It was honestly playing Deacon that brought that out to me, because that's why he resonated with people in the emails and the comments, or the people coming up to me and talking about their father's addictions. And
Really?
and of course, Deacon, we say so many things happen, dealt with sickness and cancer. So people come up and talk about their cancer. And then of course, spoiler alert, Deacon lost Raina. And I can remember, first of all, when I heard that Connie was leaving the show and that was going to happen, I think I even said to them, I go, well, we should close up shop here. We're done here. That's all. And they said, no, I think there's more to be done, more to be written about here. And then slowly I didn't know what my purpose was. And so often as the actor, your character is feeling exactly what you do as a human being. I bet for a moment after that, you didn't know what your purpose was. As Chip, I go, I don't know what is Deacon's purpose on the show anymore if Raina's gone. In the same way, you probably want, what is Brad's purpose anymore? Yeah.
Being a father that's it, right? And being a good father is it. And my child dies of fentanyl. I mean, I certainly couldn't be a good father anymore. And the truth is, when that's stripped away and you just don't care what anyone thinks, and you're like, okay, I'm just raw nerve. I swear to God, it's like life started for me anyway after he died, because everything was stripped away. The things that fell away, I mean, they fell away. Now some of the things come back, but some of it, I just can't. I would have never done something like this for fear that it would make me look not bad. Just look whatever.
Emotional, whatever adjective.
All those things.
Uncool.
And the truth is, that's probably the most impactful thing that I've done. And regardless of the size of audience, I think the world would probably have survived without Red Solo Cup. You know what I mean? But when you can sit with someone hurting,
dude, but the thing that I love is that everything you are right now, I don't think anything was added. This was always who you were at your core, at your depth. You were this piece of marble, and life and pain come along with a chisel and a hammer, and they carve away everything that's not authentically you. Because you're still as funny and is everything that you were, but this deeper level has been brought out into this who Brad is. I think that happened even by me playing Deacon. So I come to this point, I go, what is there left to do? And then suddenly it hit me. I've been playing this guy who's so broken by his childhood and has these addictions that and then he meets this woman, and over this long course, she gives him the strength to overcome and to go to these meetings and to do these things. But the nature of all these things are, you can't do it for someone else, and you can do it with the support of someone else. And that's a beautiful, brilliant thing. But instantly I realized the question was, Raina made Deacon strong enough to survive, helped make him that. Did she make him strong enough to survive without her? And then that became the question. And what I come to find out by people is that's the question they're asking themselves daily. Like, what now? And you get this vague feeling that person, I think I've heard, wants more for you than what you might choose on your own in their absence. My sister.
So how does that translate to you in real life? Everything, huh?
Honestly, it made me feel, and this is going to sound too grandiose, it made me feel a bit of a mission. And that mission just keeps increasing. Every time I get closer to authentically following that, I learn more and I'm more inspired, whether it's my work with musicians on call or my work in my songwriting. This album that I have out right now, my single right now, Somewhere in the Sunshine. Every time I touch on the real and touch on people's pain and trying to ease their pain a little. And it sounds so arrogant that you could ease somebody's pain, a stranger's pain from a distance. But you and I know that there's a lyric that can. There's a note.
And you did it with that song. I want to, before we skim by it. So our common friend, Eric Close, his brother, Christopher, who we both spent a lot of time with at the end, he died of cancer. And at his memorial service, you played the song, and I remember it. But then you sent it to Brett and I the other day, and I was like, wow. I mean, I had it fully hit me. Like I got to sit and absorb the lyric. I'm like, man, good for you. Like you did it. You pulled the emotion out of that thing. And there's something, and I'm a Florida guy. I love the sunshine. And there's nothing like whatever. I've studied near-death experiences, whatever. It gives me a lot of comfort. I like it. And there's always a warm light. I mean, it's very consistent. There's things. And there's something about the sunshine. Anyway, that song is really great.
First of all,
it's really great. It really is great.
I don't do this a lot because I'm a friend, but I'm a huge fan of your songwriting. So to hear that from a guy who's literally not only one of my favorite songwriters, but is also there's a fear to writing something that's really close, because if you get it wrong, if I'm talking to somebody that lost somebody and I got it wrong.
Feel responsibility.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying, but you can't shy away from that. And I was lucky to write it with a fantastic songwriter, John Knight.
Oh yeah.
You ever hear "Boy"?
Yes.
Lee Bryce's "Boy."
Yes.
He's written so many songs, but I knew I was in good hands. It was actually his title, "Somewhere in the Sunshine." But you'll know and love this. We were going to be writing a Tequila and Sand song, "Somewhere in the Sunshine," bro. And I had just been spending time with Christopher. And Christopher, man of great deep faith, he'd been battling cancer for 8 years.
Yeah, something like that.
And he wasn't glib about it, like, oh, I'm fine, I'm going to be with the Lord. I think he believed that, but this is where the rubber hits the road, man. So he was dealing with what he was facing, what he was leaving. And I remember just having these conversations. So when I heard that song, it was like, no, I know what the song is.
Yeah.
And you don't always do that. Yeah.
I love the twists and turns that they take, and I'm so glad you paid me that picture before we started, because that.
Oh yeah, I want to share that.
That picture of Christopher. I think I've told the story on here, but I'm going to tell you because we're telling each other, and Matt can cut it out if he wants. But the day before Christopher died, I went and sat with him. We just were there, and Eric said, "Do you want to go say goodbye?" I mean, it was like you were around. It was kind of like, this is it. And I went and sat down with him, and I just sat down and I put my hand on his leg. And I mean, if you had looked from the other room, you'd have thought I was laying hands on him, and I was not doing that. I was just touching him. And I felt my son in the room. It was it was behind me. I could feel him behind me. I mean, if you believe what we believe, you got to know. And I also believe in the idea that there's welcoming committees that come and get our loved ones. There's just too many dreams and visions that do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that makes perfect sense that Sage would be here and he was gone in less than 24 hours. He was like on the way out. And I'm like, it was just a very intense time for me, because I had lost my son. I was able to be there for my friend Eric in a way that I wasn't capable of before. I was able to be there for Christopher in a way that I wasn't capable of before.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And I not that I was a bad person. I just didn't get it. I couldn't. They want their space. Walking around those laps around the pool with Christopher, one day he told me he was worried about whether or not he's going to heaven. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. And I said, let me just tell you something. You're going to heaven. If there's anyone that doesn't have to worry about this, yeah, exactly. I know I'm going, and you're way ahead in line. Yeah. And I just said, man, I've just been given this realization since losing my child. We can't earn it. It's a gift. We just accept it. If there was an earning, you have earned it. But all you have to do is accept it. Trust me, man. I'm like, dude, if there's a heaven, you're there. You're walking into it. And just that day, and I know that I was able to make him you're dying. It sucks, right? It's crazy.
Yes. And so we had similar conversations, and I was really grateful to him for being so real so often, and he took you to his places of deep faith and his places of doubt. So we're in those conversations, and we write this song, and it just occurs to me that, what do I believe? That's what I believe. One thing I love about it is the song isn't saying, don't worry, they're somewhere in the sunshine. got bold, and the song is being sung by them. And what I love about songs, I love songs that are written like we talk. And so frequently I go back in a song and I'll just say it. Being an actor, I'll just read it like it's dialogue. And every once in a while you'll bump it. People don't talk it. So, I mean, the lines of this, like, what would they say? And I could see Christopher going, I would put a dude in front of it, or from it, like, dude, you should see this place. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's every place we ever tried to find. It's got a mountain view. You can see the ocean too. Like, I guess that's why they call it paradise. Yeah. This is, so don't you cry for me, because I'm just fine. I'm somewhere in the sunshine. And so, man, writing that and just feeling that come about, and then recording it and getting musicians in the room and a producer and Marshall Altman that sort of knew what it meant. I'm putting out a video right now very soon that is comments from people on YouTube.
Wow.
And I'm careful, because I'm not pushing this song believe me, my career is, I got no number ones coming. I got no ASCAP awards. I got none of that's in the offing. I mean, with God, all things are possible. So I don't know, but that's not what this is about. This is about, this song has somehow blessed people, and people are coming up to me. I went to some event not long ago, and it was like, those events that are on the margin, like, why do we come? What are we doing? What are we doing? And I'm here, we're helpful. It worked. And then somebody came up to me as we're leaving, brought me a card and said, I just wanted to tell you that, and she started to tell me about her son who had recently passed, and that he loved sunshine, and that somewhere that song had changed her paradigm in the moment. All of this is self-aggrandizing, but it's not. I'm telling you, it's a blessing. It's this. I have realized that veil that we talk about, the veil between this world, you were right up against it when your hand was on his leg, right? When I do my work with musicians on call, I've been in hospice settings, and I look back, and my dad had my dad, who's a whole other podcast, he's an absolute character, made a million mistakes. Faith and grace saved him, but he was still a wild man, still not a wild man, but still very powerful personality. I lost him a few years before Nashville. But as I look back, he always would take me to visit people who were near death, who were very sick, even as a kid, and have me be in the room. And so I feel oddly comfortable. And I mean that when I'm comfortable, like, hey, dude, how's it going? I feel like honestly, I'm drawn.
I'm with you now. And so I wouldn't have understood. I completely understand, because I feel oddly comfortable. I'm not lounging.
Because this world says this is the worst place to be. You don't want to be here. But I feel so blessed by that, by the way people are, because when you're in hospice, talk about what falls away. There's no BS in that room at all. It's just real. I've been in a hospice room. So what falls away? We talked about that. What's left? And what's left is love. The deepest, purest love. And I've been in a hospice room where a man, and only slightly older than me, was there. He was in his deathbed. That's what they call that. And his wife was at the foot of the bed, and they go around, they say, there's somebody here with a guitar. That's what musicians on call says. Would you like them to come sing? We don't just barge in and go, hey, everybody, Kentucky woman. No, we don't.
I'm waiting to like walk into something and go, I hate country music.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here. Yeah.
How about a little R&B then? Yeah. No, it's not like that. You got it. They say, and so they go, yes. So I go in there and I play a song or two, and the gentleman in the bed says, my wife is a huge Nashville fan. Could you play a life that's good for her?
Oh.
And I said, absolutely. I'm as close to him as I am to you. She's right there at the foot of the bed. And if I've learned anything, I've learned that that's not my moment to feel something. Because I could cry about it while I'm telling you about it now. But in that moment,
it's for them.
That I had that mind shift that's been very helpful, it's not for me. So I sit there and I played it as well as I can without the, I don't even dabble in that, because it's not my place. I have been allowed into a very sacred spot, and they bring me in there. And so I'm playing it and I'm singing it to her, and he's got a smile on his face and she's got a big old smile on her face. And then at a certain point, I see him reach over and he takes his phone and he starts videotaping his wife from his deathbed. And I'm sitting there going, this is why I learned how to play guitar.
Yeah.
I thought it was any of that other stuff. It's for this moment.
I thought it was so girls would like me.
I thought it was that. And it was that.
And it was that.
It got me my wife.
Yeah.
But this is authentically, I had no idea that I would, when I say get to do this, I don't mean like you get to play the CMAs or something, but I do feel that I get to be here. I get to be in this moment.
It sounds melodramatic to say that's more important and more special than playing the CMAs, but it is. I mean,
I agree.
It is.
That woman coming up to me the other night was like the day after the CMAs, and I said, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. I want to talk about another concept about the awkwardness about being in those places. And the concept of showing up, which has resonated with me. I want to write a book. It's called What to Do When Someone You Love Has Lost Someone They Love Desperately. And then the title of the book would be Show Up. And then you would open the book and it would say, see the cover. See the cover. And I say that, and I'm being real here. I've learned that through showing up, and I've learned that through not showing up.
I was in an AA meeting yesterday morning, the same one that you went to with me. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about AA. It's not. This isn't radio or television, but I was in a recovery.
But you're not going to say, yeah.
I was in recovery. I don't say anyone else. And a guy there, his best friend had lost his sister to fentanyl the day before, which immediately stirs everything up in me. So my heart's beating fast. I'm just sitting there doing whatever. And this guy's visibly upset. And he said, I just don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say to him. I don't know what to say. And so I immediately said, okay, I'm going to blatantly crosstalk, which you're not really supposed to do. And I said, you don't have to say anything. Just be there. Just show up. Just put your feet in the place they need to be. And you don't have to say a word. You can. And someone was telling me the other day, I have grace for anyone that tried to say something. Even if they said something stupid, they gave it a shot. Because the truth is, the cream rises to the top with your friends and people. And you get to see, boy, I've gotten to see very few, by the way. My friends, 90% showed themselves to be incredibly even better than I thought they would be. A few people just completely disappeared from my life because it was uncomfortable. And that says enough about them. But if you just show up.
I want names. I'm like,
so I've forgotten them. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you kind of.
You just kind of do.
Yeah.
But if you just put your feet there and say, what can I do? Or it's so much more important. There is nothing to say to fix it. So put your feet there. And that's what, Christopher, you have the innate ability to do that without the loss of something huge. And I know that you've lost plenty and that life has happened to you intensely, but I mean, you show up like someone would that's lost someone. You show up like I do now, and I wouldn't have done it before. I wish I would. I wish I could say.
But
that.
I look back, and I'm not sure how much I showed up for you. I know I called, and I don't know where I was in terms of if I was even in the state at all. But I look back and I go, I could have showed up more for you. I'm being just authentic here, and wished deeply that I had. I've never ever looked back and wished I'd been around less for somebody.
No, and I got.
And I'm not looking for absolution or for your comment or for your judging. Yeah, you were an 8.
No,
I'm not doing.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is I don't really.
Of course you don't.
I don't really remember like all things. I know that you were there and you were very, very reached out, and not just we talked. And it wasn't just like texting. I will say this though: you present yourself as someone that it's okay to feel that shit with, like You're okay to feel that with me. Go ahead and bring that in itself, because I probably am now, but I wasn't before. Someone that's like, yeah, man, you want to dump your load here? Go ahead. And that's how you present yourself. I know you meet a lot of fans. You're a celebrity, so it takes that. But I'm talking as a guy, as a friend of mine. If I had some dump truck of crap to unload, you do. Okay, yeah, man, let's do that.
I'd be so down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird because I think, we were talking about what falls away, right? And how blessed you feel once it falls away. Even though when you're walking through this terrible thing, you go, I'm closer to my God. I'm closer to who I authentically am. And we also said that, but it wears off on you a little bit. Some things do, some things don't. There's parts that will never wear off and you will be more authentic. But when you start to accrete, then I go, I somewhere jammed in. I got a musicians on call thing today and I'm in the hospital with somebody. And then it falls away again. It falls away again. So I'm just, that thing of show up, because I know people want to do the right. We're so afraid of doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, that we do nothing.
that we do nothing. And so, and I have tremendous understanding of those people. It's a shame if they always went away and you don't quite know how to do it. I was just reading, it's so funny when in the book of Job goes through impossible things. It's an incredible book, and it's very hard to understand and hard to make head or tail.
Sorry, and you got to finish that. I read the book of Job to Michelle because she's Catholic. They aren't really down with the Bible. When she said, she goes, "This sucks. I don't want to read this."
It does. I mean,
it's bad timing. I was like, "What do you read me the story for? I don't want new kids."
I read her Amazon review of Job, and it was like 1 star, thumbs down.
Yeah, thumbs down. Anyway, so yeah, but yeah, it is. It's hard to understand, and it's
but when you read it, at least some of the things that you thought about it fall away. I can never understand what his friends did wrong, because his friends were. But one of the things his friends did wrong was judged him for raging at God. They didn't say, "I get it, rage on, God can take it," which I think is an authentic, true thing.
I say that all the time. He can take my doubt. He can take my anger.
Your fury is, it's yeah. So, but one thing that they don't, that I went back and I went, nobody ever talks about that. Do you know? So Job's friends come along, and they basically, after a while, the first they're kind of like, "Oh, this is terrible." But, well, watch how you're talking about. Take it easy. That's okay. Who are you? Oh, now you think you? Yeah, and they're taking him on. And in the end, God upbraids them. God says that's not it either. But the first thing they do is, I think they sat with him in silence for 7 days.
There you have it.
I mean, if they had stuck with that, I don't think God would have had a single problem. And
that book would be so much shorter to read. I mean, it gets long.
It would have been a part-time Job.
That's a whose line is it anyway? Right moment, right there.
But even that got me. They just sat there. My sister, I told you, lost the love of her life, and very suddenly with a heart attack that she was there for and saw happen. So she saw him go. How old was he or she? He was, I believe, 58. Was he? Maybe he might have been older. 56. I'm so sorry. He was even younger. She's 56 right now, but this is a couple years ago. So he's 2 years older than her. And that's a whole nother chapter we could go down. I asked her if it was all right to talk about, and she's at a place where she says, absolutely. But one of the things I want to talk about was my brother, Michael, who is not as verbose as I am. Few people are, but he's not that guy. You know how you're in your family, everybody has their different role. That's not him. And I go there and we go there, and Michael's just over in the corner of the room, just sitting there like that. And I don't know how much more he did than that, but I know for a fact what that meant to her. Him just sitting there in silence and being there, show up. And all the different people, it's, God will use it's a toolbox. God, we are God's toolbox. So not everybody's the screwdriver, not everybody's the hammer, not everybody's this. Show up and God will use you in the way that he made you. Some of it might be what you said about me. That was an amazing blessing. If I'm like, dump it on me, I can take it. And other people are I'm just here. And other people are, here's what happened to me. And other people's are like, I just walked the dog and took out the trash. So just come alongside and be there.
Yeah, willingness. Like if you're willing, if the funny thing is, so I kind of, I more than one moment, but after this happens, I'm like, all right, God. For a couple of things is one of that I had an agreement with God, which he does not make deals with us, by the way. I don't know if you know that. God doesn't, but because he went back on his deal but I said, I always said, if you take one of my children, I'm drinking again. That's happening.
You did.
Always said that. Like if you take one of my children, I say it to other people, like, yeah, if one of my kids dies, I'm drinking again. It's just one of those things. And amazingly, it never even crossed my mind for the first second to take a drink. First of all, because of how my son died.
Why is that the thing that's going to wreck me? I don't know. That's
well,
I'm good here. We're good over here. That's amazing to me, because I was thinking about exactly that for you. Like it had this happen before you were sober. If you had never,
my God.
By the way, you there was a moment when Addie got sick, when it hit me, right? Did this thought ever go through your head that everything hard that I ever faced now has a purpose?
Yes.
Everything I ever went through that made me a little tougher, made me a little stronger, is for this moment right now to fight for my daughter and to be here for you. You had no idea. I mean, all the reasons you fought for your sobriety, this was not on the list, and it might have been the most necessary.
And the crazy thing is, I've never been more committed to not. By the way, not drinking. And we talk a lot of recovery on here because it's a very important thing. It's a huge thing. By the way, Sage was in recovery for a year. It was huge. It was beautiful. I got to see my son as an adult for a year. I'm so grateful for that. It's a gift. It was a gift. That was a gift from God that I got to spend a year with this sober 20-year-old kid. That was just amazing. But it means so much more to me now, because it's part of the gift that I give. Because for one thing, if I'm to be here for the grieving, which I think is part of my thing, like honestly, some guys' deal is to go chase fentanyl down. And by the way, I'll play your event for free if you're doing an anti-fentanyl thing. I'm all in to do it. But my and Michelle's particular mission, it appears to be, or ministry, would kind of be to be there for the grieving. That's what we're doing. If I was using or drinking, I'm there for no one. I couldn't possibly be of use to anyone. So, and by the way, what my son died from, I'm not, well, how disrespectful of him would it be for me to go and use the very thing, the addiction that wound up taking his life. And even though he was poisoned, he'd do whatever. If he hadn't been doing anything, it wouldn't have happened. It's amazing. So what you said, when you said earlier, would I still believe if God takes Addie, would I still believe? I think you'd be amazed at what would happen. The surrender you have to have, and the amount that God shows up for you only happens when we need it. Like I would love to go back and start 20 years ago and live with this realization, with this peace, with this thin veil, without the tragedy. But it's the only way for me to get it. I got the joy from the sadness. I miss my son. I miss him a lot, but I don't have, I would say regret. I mean, I take it on the swing at the plate on a lot of things, but it's amazing what God does for you when you allow him to. And the only way for me personally, stubborn guy, to allow him to is to have the worst thing on earth happen. And I kind of, you're flat on your face, your knees. Yeah, that's one thing. And then I was like 1 keel over and you're just like on your face. And that has kind of allowed God to do what he wanted with me. And it doesn't, you're right. It doesn't change you completely. I've still got a foul mouth and I don't dress like an adult.
You're still the stone you were carved out of.
I love you said you didn't add anything. That's wonderful. But you have some of these characteristics without the tragedy. I do. I really respect it.
I guess I don't know what that is. I'm grateful for it. And maybe I've had more than I think of. And you're talking about that ministry and that mission. To me, that is the essence of it. That is like, what do you do under pain? What do you do under death? What do you do? There's some people that I literally get the feeling when cancer goes, oh, I screwed with the wrong family. Like I've seen people in fundraising where I go, oh, you should not have messed with them because they are coming after you.
Andrew said that at Sage's funeral. He said the devil thinks he won this, but he messed with the wrong family.
Yeah, I totally believe that. My father, when my parents divorced, my father remarried, and I was still a little kid, and they had another son, and his name was Brian Patrick, and they lost him to crib death at 3.5 months. And my father's, this is all in there somewhere now that I think about it, these things about my father talking about death. I remember him talking about people's different timetables of grieving. So I had that vocabulary as a 10-year-old. And it made sense to me, all those stages of grief, and that you'd be one place and that you'd be in another. How do you guys, because you don't want people that are not in your stage. You want to quit dragging me back to denial. Quit dragging me to acceptance. I'm not there yet.
How about your spouse too?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's right.
Yeah.
All respect. And my parents, it was the same thing. And my dad, his drive was to go start an organization, the Western Pennsylvania Sudden Infant Death Syndrome Foundation. He established it and became part of the larger organization, national. It still exists. And then meanwhile, his wife, my stepmother, Jan, here's how she served. we'd be in the house and it'd be 3 a.m. and the phone would ring and everybody would know that it was somebody at Allegheny General Hospital on a payphone. The doctor had just put them on a pain phone with my mother because they just lost their baby. And so my stepmother wakes out of a dead sleep to get on a phone with a mother that has just lost her baby. And so that's all we can do is we can rage, not rage against the dying of the light in the classic sense of that poem, but more love deeper, love more, heal each other, be there for each other. What else can we do other than that? I mean, so that's the stuff that really I'm drawn to.
I had
really
a couple of conversations with Toby Mac, the Christian singer, and his wife before, and there's a couple of things he said to like allow your spouse to grieve at her. You guys got to just give each other the leeway because 80% divorce rate in this grieving the loss of a child. You know, it happens a lot. So we've been so blessed and so lucky, and we're closer and stronger than ever. But one thing that his wife said to me, she said, when you see the sun going down, you're tempted to chase the sunset. And she said, you just got to walk straight into the darkness and you'll meet it.
Wow. It's a when I was a little kid, my aunt did this thing. We'd all sit on the floor like this, and she had, maybe you heard of this, going on a bear hunt. You ever see that? You seen that? Oh, and they go, and they'd say, gonna catch a big one, on and on like this, and go, oh, wait, a wheat field. And I go, well, and she go, can't go over it. And we'd all go, can't go over it.
Oh, yeah.
Can't go under it. Can't go under it. Gotta go through it. Yeah. Somehow that always stuck with me, that we get to these things, to grief and grieving. And it's also true, I believe you would say I'm correct with your addictions. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't go around it. Got to go through it.
And the funny thing is, going through it is so much less painful
in the end
than the other.
And you're going to go through it eventually. Yeah.
Drunk and backwards. Hey, let's take a 5-minute break because I couple of things I want to do, and he put me a note up.
Sure.
And we'll indulge. You cool a few more minutes? I mean, dude, it's so amazing.
Thank you for tuning in to the Good Grief, Good God Show. As always, the Good Grief, Good God Show is brought to you in loving memory of Sage Michael.